The bruise on my face wasn't the worst part of that night. It was the silence that followed, the kind of silence that presses into your chest, makes it hard to breathe, and forces you to confront everything you've been pretending not to feel. I stood in front of my cracked bathroom mirror just before sunrise, staring at the swelling beneath my eye, the faint cut along my lip, and the exhaustion carved into my face like permanent scars. My 6-year-old son was still asleep in the next room, curled up around his stuffed dinosaur, trusting me to keep his world safe, and I had failed, again. That morning, I had no idea that in just a few hours, the woman I least expected would change the direction of my life with something as simple as breakfast. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories that remind us humanity still exists, take a moment right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Story. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. My name is Rowan Ivers. I am a single father, a warehouse clerk, and a man who has spent the last 3 years pretending he was stronger than he really was. My wife passed away after a sudden illness, leaving me with a toddler and a heart that never fully healed. I learned how to survive, not how to live. I learned how to stretch meals, how to hide tears, how to smile when I felt like breaking. What I didn't learn was how to ask for help. That night, the one that left my face bruised, started like any other. I worked late, missed the last bus, and took a shortcut through a poorly lit street. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong amount of exhaustion. I didn't fight back. I just protected my face and prayed I would make it home. When I finally reached my small apartment, I washed the blood from my lip and told myself it was nothing. I told myself my son, Leo, didn't need to know. I told myself this was just how life was for people like me, quietly enduring. I slept sitting up, afraid of how I'd look in the morning, afraid of questions I didn't want to answer. Morning came with pale daylight slipping through broken blinds. I made oatmeal, packed Leo's lunch, and helped him into his tiny jacket. He looked at me longer than usual. Children always see more than we want them to. I told him I bumped into a door. He nodded, but his eyes didn't believe me. When I dropped him at school, I stood there for a moment longer than necessary, watching him walk inside. I wondered what would happen to him if something happened to me. That thought followed me all the way to work. My boss, Celeste Marin, was not the warm type. She was efficient, composed, intimidatingly capable. She wore crisp blazers, spoke little, and expected much. People whispered that she had ice in her veins. I never had a problem with her, but I never imagined she noticed me beyond my time card. When I walked into the warehouse that morning, every step felt heavier than the last. My coworkers stared. I kept my head down. Celeste saw me immediately. She didn't say anything. She didn't make a scene. She just looked at me, really looked. I tried to avoid her, bury myself in boxes, pretend I was invisible. But halfway through my shift, she asked me to step into her office. My stomach dropped. I expected a lecture, maybe a warning about professionalism, maybe a suggestion to take a sick day. What I didn't expect was silence. She handed me a folded napkin. Inside was a small handwritten note, not official, not corporate, just simple words telling me to go home, rest, and come back tomorrow. My shift would be covered. I didn't understand it. I barely nodded and left. That night, I barely slept. My face throbbed. My thoughts were worse. Bills, rent, school fees, groceries, Leo's winter shoes with holes in the soles. I counted everything in my head like a prayer that never worked. I cried quietly into my pillow, making sure my son couldn't hear. Morning came again, and that was when everything changed. I opened my door, expecting another day of exhaustion. Instead, I found Celeste Marin standing in my hallway, holding 2 paper bags. She was dressed casually for the first time I'd ever seen her. Soft sweater, hair down, no armor. Inside the bags were breakfast containers, fresh fruit, warm bread, and small juice boxes. She didn't explain. She just placed them gently on my counter, looked at my bruises, and told me I deserved to eat. No one had said that to me in years. I didn't cry in front of her. I wanted to, but something about the quiet dignity in her presence made me hold myself together. Leo came out of his room rubbing his eyes. He stared at the stranger in our kitchen. She knelt down, introduced herself gently, and handed him a banana like it was the most normal thing in the world. And just like that, my life cracked open. She didn't pry. She didn't interrogate. She just showed up. Every morning that week, she left breakfast at my door. Sometimes she stayed. Sometimes she left before I opened it. She arranged for me to move to a safer shift. She asked if I needed time off. She didn't treat me like a problem. She treated me like a person. I didn't trust it at first. Kindness felt suspicious, like a trap. But then she asked about Leo's school, about what he liked, about what I dreamed of before life hardened me. No one had asked me that in years. Days passed. My bruises faded. Something else started to form in their place. Hope. I noticed things about Celeste. She never spoke about her personal life. She always left work late. She always ate lunch alone. Her kindness was quiet, like she didn't want credit for it. I realized something. I wasn't the only lonely one. One afternoon, she offered to drive me home because it was raining. I hesitated, but exhaustion won. On the way, she told me about growing up invisible, about learning to survive through control, about forgetting how to be human. We were two people who had been hurt differently but deeply. I started cooking for her sometimes. Nothing fancy, just soup, rice, simple things. She always ate like it was a feast. Leo adored her, not because she bought him things, but because she listened, because she noticed, because she made him feel important. And slowly, I started to feel something terrifying. Safe. One evening after a long shift, I found Celeste sitting on my couch while Leo colored beside her. She had brought him new crayons. I stood there, unsure what to say. She looked up at me and smiled softly. It wasn't professional. It wasn't distant. It was human. That was when I realized this wasn't just kindness. It was connection. I wanted to run from it. I had lost before. I had loved before. And I had buried that love in the ground. But love doesn't disappear. It waits. The turning point came when Leo got sick. Fever, coughing, shaking. I panicked. I had no emergency contacts, no family nearby. I called Celeste without thinking. She came. She stayed. She held his hand while he slept. She made soup. She didn't leave. And I broke, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly in the kitchen, gripping the counter like it was the only thing keeping me standing. She didn't ask questions. She just stood beside me. That was when I knew this wasn't temporary. This was real. Weeks passed. My life became lighter, not perfect, just lighter. My shoulders didn't hunch as much. My laughter came back. Leo slept better. I slept better. And then fear returned. I convinced myself it would end. Kindness always did. So I started pulling away. Less eye contact, fewer conversations, more excuses. She noticed. One evening, she left breakfast and didn't stay. The next day, she didn't come. The next, nothing. I felt the old weight return. That night, I sat on the floor beside Leo's bed and cried like I hadn't since my wife's funeral. I had let fear steal something good. The next morning, I went to work early. I found Celeste in her office. I didn't rehearse. I didn't prepare. I just told her the truth about the attack, about my wife, about my fear of losing people, about how she made me feel human again. She didn't interrupt. She didn't pity. She understood. From that day on, we stopped pretending. We took things slowly, carefully, with honesty. We built something, not perfect, but real. Leo started calling her his safe person. And I realized something. Family isn't always born. Sometimes it's chosen. If this story has touched your heart, if you felt even a piece of what Rowan felt, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and comment below. Your engagement helps stories like this reach the people who need them most. On the 1-year anniversary of the night I was bruised, I woke up to the smell of breakfast cooking. Not delivered, not dropped off. Cooking. Celeste was in the kitchen. Leo was setting the table. Sunlight filled the room. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't alone. And for the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was living. Special request. Please comment, I believe in kindness, if this story touched your soul. Because sometimes the moment that breaks you becomes the moment that saves you. And sometimes the most unexpected breakfast changes everything.